stage. Throughout the 3 days, there are over 40 prominent speakers. They will come to the stage to give us keynote speeches and panel discussions that are guaranteed insightful. So I figured this is the best time for us to start today with our first keynote speech. Let me introduce our first speaker. She is the General Manager of TSS, Taiwan Startup Stadium. This is established to help Taiwan startups to go global and expand their global market. So now, ladies and gentlemen, would you please all join me and welcome our first speaker of this morning, Miss Holly Harrington. Hi, Holly. Good morning. It's your time.
Hi. Wow, I'm the first one. Good morning. This is really kind of fun to be here, even though a lot of you, I know it's a holiday in Taiwan, so thank you for coming here during the Dragon Boat holiday. Before we get started, because I know we have a lot of people from out of town, I want to tell you a little bit about what TSS is and what we do, and then talk a little bit about our topic for today. So let's skip this for now. So Taiwan Startup Stadium, as you just heard, we're basically formed in order to make Taiwan startups go global. We are funded by Taiwan's National Development Council, and we've been around for 2 years. Okay. This is our team. Contrary to what a lot of people believe, we're actually quite a small organization. This is our entire team, unless you count our interns. And the team, you'll also notice, is quite diverse. We have quite a few well, first of all, we are a majority female team, which we are very proud of. We also are quite international, so about half of our team comes from overseas, not born in Taiwan. And we also have quite a few young people who've previously worked in startups. So we're a young organization, and we're not that big, but we do a lot of really cool stuff. The biggest thing that we do is our program called Starting Lineup. So Starting Lineup is a free membership program for Taiwan startups. We work primarily with early stage startups that are from seed to Series A. And these startups, if they become a member of Starting Lineup, they get access to a lot of really great benefits. Okay. So in order to join us, the company needs to be based in Taiwan, meaning to us, that means their R&D is happening here. The product is made in Taiwan. Also, the company needs to have at least one founder that is based in Taiwan as well. We do have a lot of companies where one co-founder is in Taiwan and one is in another country. And they have to have something to show, even if they're not launched yet. And most importantly, though, they have to want to go global. And that's what we are all about. So from the very beginning of TSS, we've always been about going international. So right now we have about 106 member companies that are part of our programs. Okay. And one of the only things that they really need to do for us, as I said, this is a free program, is update us. Keep us in the loop about what's going on. We collect quarterly reports from every startup in order to find out what's their funding status right now. Are they growing? Have they lost team members? Are they having financial trouble? That way we can help them a lot better. And it also forms good habits. If you're an investor, you probably like to get a lot of updates from your startups. And we're trying to build this habit among our startups. Okay. During the year, we do lots and lots of workshops and boot camps. For example, we did our Sell or Die program in April. We had 3 days of speakers from overseas teaching all about how to sell your product internationally. We also do coaching, including for different types of topics. Okay. One of those is Accelerator coaching, which I'll come back to later. But we also connect our startups with lots and lots of mentors from around the world. Currently, I just fixed this today because I just got this update. We have about 61 mentors from all over the place. Our startups actually are focused on lots of different countries, but more than half of them are looking at the US market as the top market. Therefore, we actually have quite a few mentors and people that we work with very closely that are based in the US market, but we also have mentors from throughout Asia, some in Europe, as well as other places. Okay? And these mentors, they are all very, very much willing to help Taiwan startups, which is amazing. Every time we go somewhere, it doesn't matter which country we go to, we are welcomed very warmly because these mentors are always willing to give their time. We also work with lots of accelerators. So these accelerators have been our partners since the very beginning. And through these partnerships, we're able to help startups to be a bit more competitive getting into overseas programs. Okay. Corporate partners also do a lot for our startups, not only by providing mentorship and programs, but also what's really great is if you are a member of Starting Lineup, we have a lot of great financial and discount benefits for those startups. For example, $10,000 in AWS credits, among other things. So if you are a part of our programs, then you have access to these exclusive benefits. Okay. So one of the top things that we work with startups on is fundraising, not just on product and marketing and all of that, but fundraising. And we work with lots and lots of investors. This is as of March, but I'm sure the number is updated since then. But in these 2 years that we've been working, these early stage startups, most of this is through seed funding. So they are raising a lot of money. A lot of these investors are from outside of Taiwan as well. So we're quite proud of their success. How do we get the investors on board? Well, most of it is just pure legwork. So every time we go somewhere, we meet new investors, we are constantly making new contacts, and we keep in touch with them through our investor newsletter. If you happen to be an investor, find us later. We put this out 3 times a year with who's raising money right now, who's looking for a seed round, who's looking for angels, as well as any kind of funding news. And as of right now, we have more than 300 investors and VC firms that are on our list that contact us in case they see a startup that they're quite interested in. Okay. We also work very closely with international media. So when we are working with startups, Taiwan startups are largely founded by engineers, not marketing people. They often don't have anybody for PR on board from the very beginning. They've only got like 3 people on the team. But we are quite good at getting them that attention and helping them to find out what's their PR strategy going to be. Okay. The thing that we're probably most known for, though, is our overseas programs. That's the stuff that gets a lot of attention. So we take startups abroad in order to get into the markets that they're going to. So, for example, we just came back from the US. We spent 2 weeks there, 1 week in San Francisco and 1 week in New York with 12 startups. In July, we're going to Rise Conference with 10 startups as well. And basically, when we go abroad, we also, all these things that we just talked about, these corporates, the mentors, all of that, investors, we also do that on the road. So this global network is something we've been building for 2 years, and we're quite proud of it. Okay. So let's get back to our topic for today, which is something that has been one of our core topics of TSS since we first started. Our very first program launched actually 2 years ago next week, was our Accelerator Bootcamp. That was our very first program that we ran. And we worked with startups that were looking to get into accelerator programs abroad. Okay. These accelerator programs have a lot of purposes, but many people at that time, 2 years ago, weren't really familiar with what the benefits of going to overseas accelerators were. So let's talk a little bit about what an accelerator is, because this is something that, as an English speaker, as a native English speaker, and working in the industry, in Taiwan, the use of the word accelerator is not always consistent. So generally, in the US at least, an accelerator is defined as a limited time program, usually maybe 3 months. Often there is investment, there's mentorship, and there is the purpose of accelerating and growing very, very fast. Okay? When you go to an accelerator, one of the biggest benefits is to get you into that market. So if you want to go into the US market, you probably want to go to an accelerator in the US. If you want to get into the China market, you want to go somewhere in China. If you want to go into Europe, you want to go to a European accelerator. It is one of the best ways to get to know the scene. If you are from overseas coming into Taiwan, getting to know what's going on in Taiwan is not easy unless you have people to guide you. And that's the benefit for startups from Asia going into these other places. Okay? But The other thing is just choosing where to go is a bit tough for startups, especially from Asia looking at North America. We work with startups that come to us and want to go to Y Combinator. That's the only startup they want, or accelerator they want to go to. Just like, most students, they want to go to Harvard. It's the one they know, it's the famous one, but it's not always the best one. So actually, it's important to do homework and figure out what every single accelerator is about, what their culture is like, and what they are looking for. You might not actually be what they are looking for. Okay. So, as I mentioned, one of the other great things about this is the mentorship, but there's also network. If you are a graduate of an accelerator program, as you continue to grow your business, you actually can continue to be part of that network. And long term for your business, that's actually quite beneficial. Okay. So, looking at what startups need, this is just in general. This is not for international startups. Every startup needs to have this when trying to get into an accelerator. So one is a great product, but at least it needs to have some potential, right? A lot of these accelerators, they're picking startups that are very early stage, so it's okay if it's not Google yet. Maybe it will be someday. That's what they're hoping. But there needs to be something with potential that people actually want. Also, the team. The team is very, very important because imagine you're going to spend 3 months with a group of people. Well, they want to know that they like you. They also want to know that you're coachable, which is very important for any kind of startup program, including TSS, where you don't come in thinking that you know everything, but you are willing to listen and learn and change. Additionally, traction is helpful. It depends on the accelerator, though, right? So if you're trying to get into a major accelerator that is hard to get into, having traction, having revenue already, having users signing up already, and being able to show your growth is very important. If you have nothing yet, then they have no reason to take a chance on you. Okay? Market size is another big one, but from the accelerators that we talk to, it's not always obvious what the market size is going to be. So it is important to consider, is this a really big problem? Are you going to be able to grow it globally? Or is it going to be something that only affects, a handful of people? And finally, recommendations. So if you are trying to get into an accelerator, having the recommendation of someone who graduated from that accelerator or from a partner is extremely important. What happens when you apply? Well, let's say TSS recommends you to go into this accelerator. We tell the accelerator this startup is really great. Your application goes higher in the pile, and you have a higher chance of getting an interview. So that's also a very important thing to remember. And in Taiwan, people should be pretty familiar with this concept. It's all about who you know. Okay. But international startups don't just have to meet the basic qualifications, especially startups from Asia. So if you're trying to get into the North American market, into one of the major accelerators there, or into one of the more internationally focused, so English language, big accelerator programs within Asia, you're competing with people from all over the world. Some of these programs have thousands of people applying in order to get 10 to 100 spots. How do you compete? Well, if you're from Asia, you're at a little bit of a disadvantage, not necessarily because of language, but also because of culture and because of some things that maybe are important in the US, but maybe in Asia people don't care as much about. So, how do we do that? How do you make your application stronger? One way to do that is to diversify. And diversity in the US is a big topic, but in this case, I'm not just talking about diversity as in racial or gender, any of that. Actually, I'm talking about skill diversity. So in Taiwan, many of the startups that we work with at TSS will have 3 co-founders. All 3 of them are engineers who studied at the same program together. They're all the same age. Great. They can code really, really well. But what they don't have is somebody on the team who understands business, who understands finance, who understands fundraising, marketing, PR, UX, any of that stuff. So when you have 3 people that are co-founders that are all the same, probably you're going to end up with some pretty bad ideas because you'll forget about different types of people. Again, diversity in other ways helps. So as an example, in the TSS team, we are gender diverse, but we also come from different countries. So we're able to pick out ideas that maybe if we were all Taiwanese, we wouldn't notice some problem. Or if we were all male or all female, we wouldn't notice some problem. So diversity in general is very important, not just for your product, but to get into accelerators, they will look at, what kind of balance do you have? If you're all engineers, but nobody knows how to do business, that means they're gonna have to teach you how to do business. That's a lot of work. So you have a lower chance of getting in. Okay. Also, you need to be able to embrace failure. And in Taiwan, this is a big problem, and it is throughout Asia. Failure here is something to be embarrassed about, to the point that people don't like to share that they've failed before. In the US, however, when people find out you've had 3 startups before and they all failed, wow, you're amazing. So if you are trying to get into an accelerator program or raise funds or do anything where you are trying to get people on board, having failed before is not something that's going to hurt you. Unless you've failed maybe 15 times already, then people might lose confidence. But if you've done startups before and you just weren't able to be successful, that's fine. It's great because it means you've learned what does not work. You've been able to figure out this doesn't work, this doesn't work. The next time you face that problem, you will recognize it and you'll be able to overcome it a lot better. A great example of this, actually, is a startup that we work with. I guess I'll say their name. We do one-on-one coaching with startups, and we worked with this startup for a year before finding out that actually they failed before. They never told us in a whole year that we knew them. They had a startup before that. They failed, their team broke up. They said they will never work together again. Then they got back together, started up a company, and they just got into 500 startups. So that company is Trip Plus. You should check them out. But the point is that it wasn't until this year that we found out that they failed because, again, in Taiwan, we don't talk about failure enough. But to programs like 500 Startups, that's actually an advantage because those founders worked through their problems. They figured out what works. They pivoted to an entirely different topic that is much better, and now they make money. So failure is extremely important, and here in Taiwan, we need to be letting that go and not being afraid to talk about it. Okay. The last thing for startups within Asia is just about thinking about the size of the problem that you're solving. We work with a lot of startups that apply to our programs, and we reject startups from our starting lineup because of certain things. Maybe their R&D is not taking place in Taiwan or those other reasons that were on that list earlier. But another reason that we might reject a startup is because they're not solving a problem that anybody cares about. So many of startups, maybe they started just a couple months ago and are building something very, very tiny that I could probably learn how to code and do the same thing in a month. When we are working with startups, the investors, mentors, accelerators, everyone that we work with, they get very excited by startups that are trying to tackle big, big, big problems. So not just problems that are a little bit annoying, but things that are going to change the world, change how we use currency in different countries. They're changing how we communicate worldwide. They're changing how healthcare works. These are big problems, and hopefully more startups, not just within Taiwan, but all throughout Asia, will start looking not just within our own ecosystem, but looking how we can help the world. Okay. But there's a fourth one, which is if you want to get into an accelerator, you really should get help. In the past, Taiwan startups weren't really getting into accelerators at a very rapid pace. Usually a few per year from Taiwan were getting into overseas accelerators. And a lot of that is because they were doing it all on their own. They had nobody to help them. But all around you, there's people that can help you. The government has done a great job of putting together a lot of different programs. And these programs, not just TSS, but other programs as well, can help with the advice, with the connections, and also with financial issues, because it costs money to go abroad. So there's subsidies available. There's all different kinds of things. And because now there's a lot of alumni from Taiwan that have gone to these overseas accelerators, they come back to Taiwan, they're always happy to help you. So you want to go into, Techstars or something like that, find somebody that went there, and I guarantee you they will be happy to talk to you. The startup that's at 500 startups right now has already said they can't wait to come back and start telling other people all about their experience because they really want to share and help others to get in. So asking for help is an extremely important part. No matter what country you're from, where you are, there's lots of people around you, and you don't have to go it alone. Okay? So with that in mind, just a very quick plug, because TSS does a lot of one-on-one coaching. Again, all of our programs are free. We work with startups one-on-one, so we're launching our next Accelerator coaching next week. So if you are a Taiwan startup, you're based here, you're trying to get into an overseas accelerator, these are just some of the accelerators, and a lot of these are US-based, but it's not just limited to the US, it's throughout the world. Then let us know. Apply to our programs, talk to us, but you can also talk with other people that are here today, including Steve, including Ravi, and just ask for that help. Okay? So let's keep in touch. Hopefully you've learned a thing or two today, but if you have any questions, do find me later. Again, my name's Holly Harrington, and thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Holly Harrington. Thank you very much.